I'm going to introduce you to Ty. I hope that most of you know who he is. He's a wonderful chap, and he's going to talk a little bit about why Scunthorpe Tomorrow was put together. And I've given you a bit of a build-up. So.
Oh, thank you. Amazing. Thank you so much. Try not to trip on the cable. That won't be a good start to the talk. So I think, like Alex mentioned, I think one of the things for us, so I work for an organization called Oasis, and one of the things we've been here for the last sort of 7 years, we've had schools, but we haven't been kind of doing sort of community work specifically. And one of the things that was really a bit of a struggle was just getting together with a group of people that genuinely wanted to have a different conversation. You know, there was a lot of great sort of pockets of things that were going on, but it was actually, how do we bring together and have a conversation about sort of the real stuff, you know, the stuff that's sometimes difficult to chat about, and actually be in a room with different sectors. And I often think about, there was this, somebody that told me about the civil rights movement in the States. There was this model that they used to say, the only way that things can change and things can actually happen is if there's three different players at the table, three different actors, so to speak. There's the Remainers. You know, this is not political, by the way. The Remainers, that the people that have chosen to stay in an area and they believe in an area and they want to sort of really sort of move that area forward. The relocators, the guys like, I'm from South Africa, by the way. Sorry about the twang. And then Alex, but people that have moved from somewhere else. And then also the returners, the people that have come from a place, gone somewhere, and then come back again. You know, and so when you get those three different people together, those different players, that's when things change, because people bring different perspectives, people bring all sorts of different ideas, and then you start to see things change. But I think often what happens is that you just have a group of people that have always been there, that remain and want to, you know, kind of do that thing, and people are doing that thing. And so actually we're just about bringing these things together to make something beautiful, because I think that's what's happening. There's this tapestry that we're starting to sort of weave together. There's all these amazing things going on around the area, but it's actually, how do we bring it all together, and how does it become more of a dance, you know, than just sort of everybody doing their own sort of, I'm a drama teacher by background, by the way, so I don't do that anymore. So, but that for me it is, because I think working with a lot of the young people that we come across, you know, we need to think about really what are those opportunities that are out there. We thankfully have some of our young people from our leadership program that we do as a part of our youth cafe here. They're sitting at this table, so to make a beeline to come and chat to them. But for me, it's really about making sure that young people are a part of it from the very beginning. It's not just let's have some serious conversation, then bring a young person in as a token, but actually how are they part of the co-creation. And so Scunthorpe Tomorrow really is just about that. It's about how do we make a conversation happen, you know, that really moves things forward. And so I used an example of a young person that we used to work with at the first Placelab, a young person that sort of started coming to the library that we work at, and unfortunately, you know, due to a lot of things in his life, unfortunately went down the path where he started running drugs and becoming one of the kind of county lines, and unfortunately had to flee the country because of some things that happened. But I think for me, those young people that are in our communities and things like that, you know, what if things could be different? You know, what if they had opportunities presented to them, and sort of how do we do that? So that's one of the conversations to be had today, but there's so much more that could be had. So thanks for being here. Thanks for being a part of a different conversation. I'll hand back to Alex.
Thank you, Ty. That's excellent. At some point, you will hear some Scunthorpe accents up here as well. So I run a marketing agency. We're based in Caister. We were in Brig. And I got involved in this at the invitation of Rob. I met Ty quite a long time ago. And I just, you know, part of the challenge that we face as a group is recruitment. But actually, it hasn't really been a challenge, because people love to be here, and young talent in particular, they really want to come and get stuck into marketing, the creative sector. And actually, if there's anything that we can do to create more opportunity for young people and the returners. You know, I'm technically, I suppose, my wife is a returner to the area. So, you know, there's so much opportunity here. And the people in this room here are the ones with the eyes open, looking forward, looking for those opportunities, looking to connect with each other, looking, you know, to bring young people into play, looking to bring sort of the older generations, different faith groups, different community groups, all those sort of people together. And it's really exciting to see. So the outcomes from the previous Placelab, you know, we don't just sort of park it, talk about it, and then move on and then have another event. You know, everything has been moving forward. Everything is being pushed to a sort of a goal of actually what can we do to make a difference? How can we, you know, the group, the people who are running Scunthorpe tomorrow, be accountable to you guys, so that it's not just having Placelab 3, Placelab 4. What are we going to do next? Where are we going to be next? And that brings me on to a huge thank you to the Scunthorpe United Football Club people today for hosting us here. I guess some of you might have been out in the stands before. Some of you might have been here for various different events. But this is often a very different way during a weekday to spend time as a football club. The sports clubs, for me, I absolutely love sport. So I see sports clubs as being so important to any community. That it's not just about people playing out on a pitch, but the energy that they bring, the opportunity that they bring for commercial organisations to pull together, the fact that they're a figurehead, something for people to hook onto, either love or not love, depending on who you support and which particular shaped ball you're chasing around. So it really big thanks to Glyn and his team, and Matt's going to come up and be part of the panel shortly. So please do, if you want to talk to the Scunthorpe United guys about anything, please do grab hold of them and ask them about any sort of opportunities to use this space, to use the club, to partner up with it. There's loads of stuff going on there. So this brings me on to the panel today. So if I could, there are 4 people, if I could invite the 4 people up, Tony, Dan, Sean and Matt, up to here to perch on these Boyzone style stools. There won't be a key change well, there might be, I don't know what they've got planned. Just, park yourself anywhere. It's a bit tight. I'm going to sit down as well. For those of you who were here for the first Placelab, you can move the chairs apart if you need to.
Some big shoulders.
The first panel went down pretty well, I think, and lots of good questions from the floor. It's all actually we videoed the first Placelab, so if you do want to catch up on that, then find it on the YouTube channel. It'll be linked from the website. Also, just point on the video that Justin's put together that we were going to be showing on the screen today. It's up there now, but loads of interesting stuff on there. So today's panel, I will allow them to introduce themselves because everybody knows themselves the best. Let's start with Sean here.
Hi, I'm Sian Broughton. I'm the CEO of Community Vision. We're a voluntary infrastructure organisation. We support a range of charities and voluntary sector organisations across Scunthorpe and North Lincolnshire.
Morning, everybody. My name's Matt Roberts. I'm the Chief Exec here at Scunthorpe United, which is a football club, but also it's a lot more than that as well.
Yeah, that way. Go that way. Morning, everybody. My name's Tony Wilkinson. I'm Director of Rugby at Scunthorpe Rugby Union Football Club. That means I get the jobs that everybody else doesn't want to do within the rugby club, try and develop some sort of strategy to get us promoted and work with the head coach to bring in players and develop a playing strategy.
That one. Okay. Right. Sorry. I'm Dan Bown. I am the Assistant Principal for Higher Education at DN Colleges Group. So I look after everything from level 4 to level 7, so degrees, HNCs and those types of things.
Fabulous. Right, so I have some questions on my my screen here. I'm not just keeping up to date with my crypto. So we would like and encourage the room to ask questions whenever you like. Do we have a roving mic, or do you want people to come up to the... Ooh, you get to come up to the... Looks like you're going to audition. Sorry, excuse me. If you do have any questions, then please come up and ask them. But the theme today, the reason why we've got these 4 fine specimens onto the panel today is because we want to know from them, how they've got to where they are, what the interplay is between these 4 organisations. It's very easy in a town to sort of get focused on one in particular. If you're a football fan, you focus on the football club. If you're a rugby fan, focus on the rugby club. If you're really into the third sector side of things, perhaps you look at what the charity sector's up to, and then maybe you have experience of the education side of things, either from being a student or from on the teaching side, and you forget about how everything actually sort of links in together, and then the organisations that feed them and the communities that they foster. So sort of today we're going to see how these guys can kind of shape what they do, talk about what they do, and then look at communities for the future. So. They have been shared, these questions, in advance. So if there's any stumbling, there will be lines afterwards. The final point, I've already mentioned this, is the idea of the pledge. And we're not trying to be too grand about this, but it is down to that individual action. Yes, this is a group of people. Yes, there are, 75 people in the room today coming together on this. You've got to do something about it, right? You've got to take something away from today and do something about it. My pledge last time round was that I'm going to get my children here into Scunthorpe more, get them to experience more of what happens here, not just coming here to go to Boots for an eye test or something like that, but actually come and do different things. And my commitment to that is that brought them to park run a few times, brought them to watch a few games here. My son went straight into the club shop and demanded a shirt, which he wears all the time now. So it's, that is quite an easy pledge, I suppose, from me. But, I live in a village just outside the town, so I've got to bring them in so that they get used to this place. It's very easy as a young person in particular, when people ask you, what's the place you live like, just to say, it's a bit crap. That is the default reaction. And I think a lot of the time that's a bit like young kids in a playground, sort of teasing, pushing the buttons of the person they actually really like, but they don't want to admit it. Everybody does have a fondness for where they grew up. And that automatic reaction, it's a bit crap, that tends to fade. And I don't think we should be too harsh on young people when that is their reaction, but it is on us to help them see why it isn't crap and how they can make a difference to make it not crap. So, right, onto the panel here. So if I could just ask you, Sean, if you could start off with talking about how your organisation fits into Scunthorpe and the value you bring as a group to this place.
Yep, so we're a charity and we're based on Robert Street in Scunthorpe. We work with a wide range of voluntary sector organisations and charities across the area, doing a range of things. So things like we support them with governance, policies. So it's all of that structural stuff that people come together to do great things, but don't necessarily fully have an understanding of maybe how to do their bookkeeping, how to apply for funding, looking at how they engage people and volunteers. So we do a lot of work around volunteering and youth volunteering. And I think the value that we bring to that is that we've got a range of experiences across a number of different organisations, that collaboration, bringing people together so that we can share learning, share peer support, and just about how people move forward to support the most vulnerable people within our communities. For those who are not in our sector, you maybe don't understand the breadth and depth of the sector. There are hundreds of organisations. So things like you might go into Scunthorpe town and you might see the community centre, Central Community Centre, for instance. That is a charity. Although it says North Lincolnshire Council above the door, it is a charity in its own right, run by volunteers. And all it takes is a little bit of action from each of us to be engaged within our community. So there might be charity shops, there are sports organisations. there's the uniformed groups. There is just such a wide array. Some of them have paid staff, some are just volunteers. And when I say just volunteers, I don't mean just volunteers in that way. What I mean is people who are giving their time freely. So just like any one of us can do to be able to support people within our communities.
I guess the same applies to you, Matt. You know, do you want to, you're relatively new into the role? What's it been for 5 months now, something like that? And you're not a Scunthorpe, born and bred resident. So, how do you find that the football club fits into the town?
Yeah, so I'm Fields. Originally, I lived away for quite a while. We'll perhaps touch on that a little bit later on. But obviously Huddersfield is a town that shares a lot of the similar challenges to Scunthorpe, and I know as a football fan the importance of a football club to its community, and that was highlighted here in Scunthorpe by the plight of the club over the last couple of years, and the very real danger of losing that, and the way that the community and local business came out to support and to prevent that from happening was just a real clear indication of the importance of the club to the town and the community. I'm a great believer that whatever the organisation, whether it's a football club or a business or a charity, the connection to their original purpose for existing in the first place is really important. And obviously that can sometimes get lost in the chase for bottom line results, whether that's in business, for shareholder value and stakeholder value gets forgotten. And that's true in football as well. The pursuit of glory or money can often, and we see it all the time, at football clubs up and down the country and around the world, that gets lost. So to me, coming in here, one of the things I said to the owners before taking the job was I feel it's really important that I recognise the original purpose of Scunthorpe United, which was set up, as many people know, back in 1899. A gentleman called Reggie Symes, he was a local solicitor. He set up Bible reading classes and a boys club. And that evolved into Scunthorpe United, and his original purpose there was to create social value through physical and mental well-being. And if we remember that and get back in touch with that everything we do here is to create social value through physical and mental well-being, and then consider how we do that, then we're on the right lines, I think, in terms of engaging everybody, our fan base and all of our stakeholders again. So how do we do that? How do we create social value? I think there's 3 really clear ways. One is to provide joy on the pitch for our supporters who come and watch us on a Saturday, and there's a few of them in here today who work really hard during the week, look forward to going to the football with their friends and family on a weekend, and they want to be entertained out on the pitch, and that's our duty to do that. So that's one area. Another area that I feel really strongly about is generating a sense of pride. You touched on it there about pride in your local town and where you're from. And we can do that because we're representatives of the town wherever we go, and the way that we behave and how our players perform and behave is representative of the people of the town. So we have to give our supporters and our stakeholders a team and a club to be proud of. And also the one thing that sport really allows people to engage with, whether it's rugby or whatever, is a sense of identity as well, and obviously that links to pride, but we as football fans connect through a sense of identity, shared experience, and that's where real social value can be found as well, in creating those bonds between people. So I think, as I said, the very real threat of losing all of that from this town became really evident and forefront of people's minds very recently. And now it's our job to make sure that never happens again. And that's how I see it fitting in. I have to say as well that, as you mentioned, I'm new to the town, and events like this and networking, and I've already made a note of my one takeaway that my action at the end is to really make the effort to engage with everybody, to work out what. That's how I see us fitting into the community. But what's really important is how everybody else sees that too. And I'm really open to conversations and ideas about how best to do that. So I welcome that later on.
Thank you. Good. Tony?
Thank you. Scunthorpe Rugby, we're proud to be at the heart of the community. We're in the town centre. We're fortunate enough to have a piece of land that hasn't been developed into housing, I guess. and that we are a club which pride itself on being a family. We're run by volunteers. We've got a mini junior section which is thriving at 200 plus stronger kids who come out every Sunday to play rugby. As youths, up until the age of 13, they play football and rugby, so we do have that crossover. Sometimes people say rugby and football don't mix, but actually, I went to school with Glyn, so actually we do mix quite well, or we're trying to mix quite well now. We're breaking down those barriers. But yeah, Scunthorpe Rugby, we're when the volunteers come through. So, and I'll touch on my journey a little bit, but a lot of the volunteers come because their kids start to play rugby, and then they become players, and we have a pathway. So we're proud that people from Scunthorpe have a way of playing semi-professional sport, and that pathway comes from when they start at 3 to 5, when they join our Little Ruckers scheme, and trust me, they are Little Ruckers. It's not a spelling mistake. All the way through to 18 and then beyond. So 70% of our first team, who are now playing at level 5, started as 6-year-olds. How do we support the community? We get out into schools. We're redeveloping that relationship with local schools, local businesses, local charity organisations, to try and promote the wonderful sport that is rugby and what it can give you as a person, really, and then them core values to carry on like that.
Thank you. It's interesting that in my relatively early in my time up here, I met a chap who's here today, Ben, and he's had a long association with the rugby club, and through getting to know him, becoming friends with him, a lot of the time he'll say, I'll say, "Oh, how do you know that person?" He's like, "I played rugby with him," or played rugby against him, and I think that the sports clubs in particular, they do sort of they connect you in ways beyond just the time that you spend on the pitch or the time in the bar afterwards, or as parents standing on the side watching your children play. It is actually absolutely intrinsic to the sort of the town. And where I'm from, over in Lancashire, I've seen a few football clubs fold over the years, and Oral Rugby Union Club, and that leaves a massive hole, and it's really hard. And I think that the work that the sports clubs are doing, in particular, to make sure that the town has something for people to do, should really be applauded. And I think that the kind of the impact of all that, on the rest of it, and what Sian was saying about the charity sector. I mean, it's not just the big charities that you see. It's tiny organisations. It's everybody that goes and buys from charity shops. It's just huge. And I think now, if I pass on to Dan to talk about more about the education sector, I think that, the part that plays, that is a massive draw, isn't it, to people to live in an area, to move there, to remain there.
Absolutely. So UCNL is part of DN Colleges Group. So we are across Doncaster, we've got North Lindsey College, and then UCNL. So in Scunthorpe, we've now got a purpose-built, well, not a purpose-built building, a purposely redesigned building just for higher education. So in a small town like Scunthorpe, we can now offer such a range of different qualifications and different opportunities for people in the local area to engage with their local community, to access careers and opportunities that they might not have had the opportunity to do before. So our role is obviously the education, so the formal degrees, but actually it's bigger than that. UCNL is a massive part of the community. We are an anchor institution for Scunthorpe, and what we are developing and what we do really well now is bringing people from different experiences, different cultures, all together kind of under one roof to learn from each other and to kind of enhance the prosperity of Scunthorpe and really what we do. So obviously we're a large employer as well, and with North Lindsey College we can offer people from any age the opportunity to get into a broad range of different areas that they might not have had the opportunity to do before. We've also got lots of opportunities in relation to how we work with the community and the local employers. So in everything that we do, in our curriculum and all the activity that we kind of have around Scunthorpe, it's very much informed by what the community needs. We're community-led. So we kind of have lots of different opportunities and kind of tap into lots of different areas to actually make Scunthorpe a better place.
Fantastic. What a good way to finish. And I think that the sort of one of the challenges I think of towns now is to have those anchor institutions that you talk about there. There's so much competition, there's so much sort of willingness to travel and go elsewhere, that you want people to either remain where they are or to be drawn in and say, well, actually, look at these guys, they're doing some great things. And I think that sort of from the people who are more established in their careers, they want places that they can work, whether that is in the third sector, in sports, in the education side of things. So thank you very much for that as a bit of an intro, you guys. So my question, I think, for this group is Scunthorpe tomorrow. Where do you think each of you, and I think you all have different perspectives on this, where do you think Scunthorpe sits today? What's the situation now? And I don't want you to sugarcoat it or to go in too hard, but honestly, from your perspective, personally, from a work perspective, where do you think it is today?
Is this still on? Yeah. I think it's very divided. I think we've got a huge mix of sort of people who've done well, but also there are quite a lot of people who are living hand to mouth, really struggling, and then not necessarily seeing all of the benefits that the community offers, feeling that they live in a forgotten place within their community. And I think as our roles as community organisations is about ensuring that nobody gets left behind. What are those opportunities and how can we bring people along on whatever journey that we're going onto, so that people do feel that they're a part of something, that they live somewhere to be proud of, that we are inclusive, and that means that the society works for everybody.
Do you think it's any different today from maybe 20 years ago? And do you think there's a reason for that, if there is a difference?
I think there are some differences, and I think some of those are sort of system pressures and system differences. So things around people have to work more, so you lose that family identity at times because you've got both parents out at work. Grandparents are having to work longer, so can't provide the family support that they once did. I think you've got things around social media, and people are then not going out so much or socialising. They're behind a screen. I think people are sometimes too busy trying to survive, that they're struggling to put that time forward to be able to support the neighbour. And I think we saw a real good improvement in that sense of community, especially during COVID, where I think people could see the little actions that they did that really helped. So it might have been that their neighbour couldn't go out shopping, so somebody would do that for them. But I think it's very easy to fall back into old habits because people are back at work, people are then busy, have they got the time to do everything that they need to do? I think there are large parts of the population who do give their time and do volunteer and do some really fantastic work. I think sometimes other people just don't know how to get involved in that because they're just so busy or nobody's had the opportunity. I volunteer within my community, and it was very difficult. We'd put out an advert and it'd be like, we need somebody to help us run the disco for the children, and nobody would come forward. But what we did do then was speak to people. So it's like, oh, did you know? Because what people don't realise is that they've all got skills that they can give. So sometimes it just needs that conversation to break the ice and say, please, we need you. We need your skills. You can just, even if it's just doing the refreshments, there's something for everybody within the community that will help somebody else, even if that's having a conversation with your neighbour, walking down the street and you see some person on their own, say hello. That could be the only contact that person has.
I think that's a very good point, that if you do sort of one-to-many comms, then most people ignore it. You go one-to-one, and actually people will stand up and take notice. And I've said this already today, that we want each and every one of you in the room today to tell someone else about this, right? To tell someone about it, to talk about what you've done today. If you go and have a coffee with somebody, see someone over the weekend, and they say, "What have you done this week?" Tell them about today, and see what their reaction is. And I think that's sort of the measure of a human, isn't it? Whether they go, "Well, right, okay, sounds a bit boring," or actually whether, "Oh, like, wonder what I can do." And I think that's that's something that we need to sort of push for. So thanks very much. Yeah, Matt, have you got any thoughts on where Scunthorpe is today?
Well, it's difficult for me to answer that because I've been here since November, but what I can give you my first impressions, if you like. And it was really interesting listening to Sean there because I think, as I said, I'm from Huddersfield and it's a similar town in a lot of ways in terms of its size and demographic and the fact that, it was heavily reliant on a particular industry and isn't anymore, and it's kind of been stuck in a search for its own identity. And I remember reading some stuff before I began the job here about the challenges that the town faces, and one of those being that the talent leaves the town, and I have to say, one of my observations since coming here is, and today is a perfect example of that. That's why this group exists, right? It's amazing how many people have got in touch with me and said, "I'm from Scunthorpe originally. Actually, I'm a fan of the club. Can I help?" On LinkedIn or whatever. There's so many people like that. I had a conversation with somebody last night who lives locally in the area, works in football, and rang me and said, "I've just realised that the guy who's the head of marketing for a company that's just taken on UEFA's marketing strategy, got chatting to him, and it turns out he's from Scunthorpe and he's a Scunny fan. You should have a conversation with him, And that's happening a lot. And we have it. One of our owners, Ian, who spoke at the first event. You'll know he went away, or maybe you don't, but he's originally from Scunthorpe, went away. That's what I did in my career as well. I went away from Huddersfield because I knew there was no opportunity there for me to follow what I wanted to do. And these people who've been away, what do we call them, returners, come back because they recognise and they know the challenges of this town, and they want the people who live here right now to have the opportunities perhaps that they didn't have, and recognise their struggle in the same way Rog and Michelle and George, who've either been born and brought up here or lived here for a long time in George's case. Same thing, they recognise and understand properly the challenges that local communities face, and want to make a contribution to that, and recognise that a really great gateway to do that is through working and owning the football club. So I can assure everybody that the intentions of the football club here to connect with the community and to create that social value, and to help stem that leak of talent, if that's the right word, or people going away, and give them a reason to stick around or to come back. It's absolutely authentic and it's genuine, and it runs through every bit of this club, and it will do as we go forward. And I've been fortunate to spend a little time with Rog in the local community and start to get a grip of and understand those challenges. And like I said, there's a lot of similarities between here and where I'm from, so I get it a little bit.
I think it's an interesting thing about. I often encourage people to go away, to go and experience somewhere else, and then come back. I think it's a town is much better for people having experienced something elsewhere, whether that's 20 miles away, 200 miles away, 2,000 miles away. They bring back new ideas. They bring back different ways of working and also different experiences. And
and you come back with a different perspective. I can say that from experience. Like I said, I grew up in Huddersfield. I moved away when I was 22. I went to live in Barcelona for 7 years, and I travelled the world with the job that I was doing at the time. And I would come back home and people would say things like, "What have you come back to this shithole for?" And they'd never been anywhere else. And I'm like, guys, you've got nothing to compare this to, and actually this is a really great town with a lot going for it. And unfortunately, that attitude drags progress. But you're right, and it's not just having those experiences, but it's seeing the different perspective of your own town, not just seeing other places, but looking at your own town through a different lens. And so it is important.
Very good. Yeah, thanks. I agree with that. And it is a certain laziness, isn't it, that people sort of, I don't mean that they are lazy, but it's a laziness of attitude to sort of say, well, this place is crap. Actually, well, just compared to what? What else have you done? What else have you seen? Have you seen stuff on TV? Well, that's TV. You're looking at it through a lens. You're not actually getting out there and in amongst it. Thanks, Tony. You got some thoughts on where we are today?
Yeah, I can only give you my views. I'm born and bred in Scunthorpe. All of my 47 years I've been in Scunthorpe bar in 4 where I worked in Beverley. I think there's a lot of uncertainty in the town. We see in the news about the steel industry, and we're a steel town. That's on the signs as you come in, a steel garden town. But actually, there's more to Scunthorpe than just a steelworks. I'm not saying just a steelworks because it is very important to the local area. But actually, just looking around the room, how many businesses and organisations are in the room other than and attached to the steel industry? So there is a lot of opportunity out there, and you hit the nail on the head when you say the talent leaves the town. So Karen, who's our commercial marketing manager for the rugby club, have had these chats about keeping talent local and actually just saying we want not just talent business-wise, but actually talent rugby-wise as well. We don't want our players going off to Doncaster and Leeds and places like that. We want to keep them local because we want to promote the rugby in the town and actually have a place for them to call their home as well. So, but I think you asked the question, what was it like 20 years ago? So I actually remember it 20 years ago. And the one thing, I walked down the town for my lunch hour and I think, how many coffee shops and barber shops does one town need? When you walk down, there must be in double figures. And it's how we develop the town centre to become a thriving place again. People say, oh, it's dead and just forget about it. But actually, no, that's like the community. And I saw something on YouTube about there was a clock tower in the middle, if anyone's old enough to remember, where kids used to congregate in the just outside Bin's department store and used to sit on the clock and used to think he was cock of the north because he got actually onto the clock tower. But actually, that's the sort of thing that we need again in the town centre, a place for people to call a community, a place for people to actually be proud of and to walk down and think, this is ace, rather than just walking down going, this is crap. You search on YouTube now, and I think the first video I saw was some guy from Liverpool walking around the Froningham Road area saying how crap everything was. Well,
so we're just going to cut you off there. We're not mentioning that video.
Yeah, okay.
No, we are. We're not hiding from it now.
Oh, yeah, okay. So, but actually, he didn't go to any other area where he didn't go around Central Park, which is beautiful, and speak to all the dog walkers, all the pods, which is unbelievable, and won national awards and everything like that. He didn't go to Bottisford and down the Beck and everywhere like that, where there's beautiful areas around Scunthorpe what we could promote, but actually everyone just gets fascinated around this one area. Well, there's loads more to Scunthorpe than that, including sports clubs, charity organisations, and like you can chuck a stone between about 30 different football clubs, I think. So get out and just enjoy it a little bit more and spread the word. That's what I would say about Scunny. And yeah, I am passionate about it because it is my hometown, and I don't want to go anywhere else because I can't afford to live anywhere else. So, yeah.
Thanks. That's good. It's good insight. I like the concept of the somewhere in the town to actually gather and for people to hang out. That is like the clock tower type thing. And people talk about high streets and the sort of the downfall of the high street, and then focus on retail. And actually, there's only so much that you can buy, and we shouldn't really be encouraging people to buy stuff. Actually, let's think about high streets as a reflection of society as a whole. Offices there, places to live, places to eat and drink, places just to hang out, places to do stuff. Let's look at it in that way, and then it becomes thriving, and actually, Scunthorpe becomes a place that people go, well, actually, I do want to go there. And you watch the chap's video, and I do encourage you to watch it because it is interesting. But yeah, he's getting views on his videos because of how negative he is about stuff. And actually, credit to him, he does say that there are some good bits. He does say, well, it's like this in most places, and this is a UK problem, not a Scunthorpe problem. But he's not going to get people watching his video if he's like, oh, it's lovely in Bottisford, and let's look at the Saxon heritage here and things like that. I think that it shouldn't be incumbent on the council. Let's not make this a council thing, the local authority to be the tourism office for this place. No, that's our job as people who live, work, visit here. We should be the tourism office. We should say, right, do you know what, actually I took a walk in the woods, I've been up to Normanby Hall, I've been, whatever it is, you become an advocate for that, and therefore you become an advocate for Scunthorpe. And the more people who are saying that and sharing that, the louder that voice becomes. So, Dan, do you have a view on today?
So I think Scunthorpe's in a massive transition period. So we're going from a position of the traditional industrial position to actually the emerging and innovative industrial position. And I think we're doing that really well. If we look at some of the broad successes that Scunthorpe has had kind of nationally, we've got so many skills here and a really good heart. And I think trying to retain those skills. We've got an ageing workforce and we've got many different sectors that are struggling to find the people they need with the skills to be able to do these jobs that are here and that make Scunthorpe a really interesting place. So I think a couple of the key things for me is reskilling and retaining the skills within Scunthorpe that we've got and that have made us as successful as we have been previously, and actually trying to keep the talent that we have in the town. Rather than people kind of leaving, which kind of brings back in the type of institution that we are, where there are opportunities to gain the skills that the workforce really desperately need so that people can stay here and kind of make the community and make the town the best it possibly can be. So yeah, they're my thoughts.
Well, I think that's really interesting. That's the idea of transferable skills. You know, if you've been working in one sector for a while and that ends, you know, what can you then do rather than just sitting on your backside? You know, the knowledge that they can go and do something, whether that's, you know, a short course, longer term, to apply themselves in a different way and to understand what is out there. I think that's a really excellent point. So thank you, thanks very much for that. So just as I'm going through, are there any questions from the floor? Is there anyone who has anything that they'd like to raise? And I know that everybody's shy, and I don't think that's the Britishness. Yes, we've got a hand. Michaela, can you come up to the mic to ask a question? If you wouldn't mind just saying your name and where you're from.
Hi, my name's Michaela. I work for eFactor in the Business Hive, so I speak to lots of businesses every day. It's more of an observation, actually. I'm interested, anybody on the floor. Tony said about the clock 20 years ago in Scunthorpe. I sat under that clock, like lots of people. But just an observation, Ashby seems to hold itself together. Ashby High Street really has still got a heart, a community. And I wondered what anybody else thinks about that, because there is such a difference between Scunthorpe and Ashby. And yeah,
that's a very good point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything from the floor on that, or before I turn to the panel? Oh yes, yeah. If you want to pop up and grab it again, if you wouldn't mind just saying who you are.
Hi, my name's Ian. I'm a self-employed artist illustrator, born and bred in Scunthorpe. I've got a question for, is it Matt and Tony? It's more about the football and rugby club. So I've been doing art all my life, on and off, but I had a 5-year period of not doing anything art related because I fell into a severe depression. So what I found as a way to get back into art was I focused on a different thing to do. So I started learning to cook. So it kind of gave me a focus to do something creative in a different way and just to focus while I heal my depression. So when I was ready to go back into the art again, it kind of helped me. I was wondering, like, with football players or rugby players, sometimes you have like downtime where they have injuries, and some players might have some low morale. So I was wondering, are you guys interested in a program? I just thought of it now while I was listening to you, like hiring different people from different disciplines. Like it could be myself as an artist, or a chef, or a poet, just to have a few sessions with these players, like to do something different, to boost up their confidence while they take time to heal, and it would be something to like a good community thing. But yeah, I just thought of it now.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything you'd like to say on that? I think if you address the question there, and then we'll come back to the Ashby thing, because I think that's probably a bit of a longer discussion.
Yeah, so I'll start if you don't mind. Prior to COVID, back in those days, the rugby club was hit with 3 male suicides over a calendar year, which was a difficult period of time for the club, really. So, and we wondered what really was going on with our rugby community, young males taking their own lives, not really understanding why, because we always say that rugby players, when you come off a pitch and you're in the shower and you go, my God, look at your back and it's full of stroke marks, and then you get fascinated with cauliflower ears and broken noses and missing teeth. But actually what we realised was that rugby players are really, really poor at saying, actually, I'm struggling and mentally struggling. And we needed to reach out to our community, which was not just rugby players, but people wider than that, parents, grandparents, children, everything like that. So we decided to set up a mental health organisation called Tackling It Together, which has a really unfortunate acronym, but we went with it anyway. So, it was a group of people, some of them are in the room, who came together and we put on events, like you were saying, for people to come and chat about how mental health can affect sports people or just people in the community and everything like that. That runs in the background now at the rugby club. It's not in your face or anything like that, but it's actually there and it's on the posters, and it's a huge, huge thing. I think Joe Marler's is probably the most famous person who, rugby-wise, who's come out and discussed his own mental health challenges. And I'd recommend anyone to watch Big Boys Don't Cry on YouTube. It's about 45 minutes, but it's fascinating that you've got this England rugby player who's got the world at his feet and can go into the gym and lift 200 kilos and then run into each other and not even bat an eyelid and be really out there and be a real extrovert, but actually he's got his inner demons and he's struggling to deal with that. So actually what we did as a rugby club is try to make it not a dirty word, and that actually if you said to somebody, how are you feeling, they're not going to turn to dust and they're not just going to crumble in front of you. But in answer to your question, would we be interested in people who are injured? I can think of one chap he's out for the season and probably next season as well. He's 25, self-employed, and we're having to look after him a little bit because we know that he's going to struggle. But getting something else, putting something on for rugby players would be fantastic, or for anyone really at Heslin Park or the Attis Arena and Ellicott Clanford Park. Then I'm not allowed, am I? Would be fantastic for people to have something else to focus on. Definitely, like I say, we've had our problems at the rugby club, and hopefully we're starting to address those. It'll never go away because mental health's prevalent in all of us, isn't it? Sometimes you can have good mental health, sometimes you could have bad mental health. It depends on how you wake up, or if your car's broke down, or your wife's annoyed you because she's told you to go get blue milk for the 15th time that week. Whichever, I don't know. So, but it's different, very different. Yeah, I know, yes. I have got family in the room as well. So my wife isn't here, but there are the spies in the room. So, look, it's not a dirty word, and we do need to challenge, especially in women are really good at chatting about their own mental health, men not so much, and we do need to challenge that within our own male community and actually speaking to people. And well, we can come on to the pledge later on, but that's going to be definitely something that I'm going to challenge people to do.
Very good. I like that. Thanks, Tony. And I know, Matt, from talking to you in the past, that you're a coach of people. You know, you like to get into people's minds and understanding people. You know, is there anything that you would say in your sort of short time with the club that you would pick up on what Ian was saying about?
Just to clarify that, I've done before this role some executive coaching, which is not therapy, but it's a means of helping people to address problems from different perspectives. I'm a little bit invested in that personally because I also had some mental health issues in the past, and appreciate how brave it was of you, Yen, to share that in front of so many people. So thank you for that. It is interesting. My observations from coming into a professional sports club at the moment. Yesterday, here in the Legends Lounge, we had 3 gentlemen come to present to our playing staff an app that they've developed and they're going to launch soon. All three guys are ex-footballers. So one of them had his career cut short really early, and he went into working in data and computers, and and stuff like that. The other two, one of them was a high-profile Premier League player, a guy called Matt Jarvis, played for West Ham and Wolves, and the other guy's a guy called Will Boyle, who currently plays for Wrexham. And they're launching this psychological support app for footballers, because what they recognise as former players, and it was it came through as a theme from the conversation in the room, is that players find it really difficult to talk, and we are in different times now, and it's great that people are able to have these conversations openly, and we've got some great role models like Joe Marler and Marcus Rashford and other people like that who speak openly about mental health and remove the taboo, so that when guys come, and this is another thing about football, about sport, it's not just playing sport, that's playing football for me is a big relief, but just coming and spending time with my friends and for some people shouting and having a moan and stuff like that, it can be good for you. But in an elite sport environment, players find it really difficult to do that, because they don't want to drag other people down. That's how they can perceive it. So if let's say we've got a game tomorrow, a big important game, and you walk into a room full of your fellow professionals and the atmosphere is good and everybody's feeling positive about the game, and somebody says, how you feeling? And you turn around and actually be honest, and you're not feeling so great. They're nervous about bringing other people down, so they don't do it. They don't share. It's to their own detriment, but they're trying to do it to protect the group. Does that make sense? So, and obviously these issues are very individual, and what works for one person might not work for the next person. That's the idea of the app that these guys introduced, because it's a way for people to go, actually, I don't feel good. I can speak to somebody, and I can go away to my own home and in my own safe space address those things. So that's just an anecdote, I guess, of my experience here so far. But in theory, great, like workshops, people coming in to do talks and all of that. It's great. And for some players, it'll be exactly what they need and they will take a lot. Some players won't, because it won't be for them. And they're also, they're young lads as well, and they're nervous about how that looks, and they're still developing, and it's a tricky one, yeah.
It'd be interesting to go back to Mr. Symes 125 years ago and say, look, you set up this football club for social cohesion and mental and physical well-being. There's going to be this app that you take back into your own house, and you sort of start looking at your psychological health, your mental well-being, and it's all come through the football club. So I guess we are there, but it does make me sort of think that and it's sort of looking back in 20, 30 years time, 20, 30 years ago. We didn't really talk about this sort of thing a huge amount, but the clubs were set up for that, and businesses were set up, and charity organisations. There's always been that running through, but we just haven't really talked about it, and been forgotten about. Sean, going back to the conversation about Ashby, is that an area that you know well, have a view on?
I used to sort of hang around in Ashby as a young girl, but I also used to hang around in town. I think places like town have become a little bit more obsolete in time, so that it's not a friendly place to be hanging around. You're more likely to be seen by the police or sent on your way. There's sort of even signage up now in town, isn't there, around please don't loiter.
Not by the clock tower.
And not by anywhere, which I think puts people off. But also, I think communities can get very sort of defensive about things, can't they? So if you've got children wanting to play football, people end up ringing the police because children are playing football. There's a group of them. What are they doing? And it's like the expectation, because they're young, they're just getting up to no good. Where I think Ashby is probably a little bit more tolerant of what people are doing. You've still got sort of some green spaces around there, so kids can hang out in parks and fields and that type of thing, so that people are not complaining. Because a lot of the time they're just hanging around because they want to play with their friends.
So do you think that Scunthorpe struggles perhaps because it does have multiple centres? I suppose it's got the sort of the villages that all came together to form the town itself. Is that something that you guys who've sort of grown up here and live here now would say is a challenge that can be actually adopted as something that can be beneficial for the future? You know, you create a kind of hub and spoke approach to Scunthorpe as a town, as they often do in county settings.
I'm not sure. I'll pass that on.
Maybe Tony. I don't know.
In a word, no. I think it needs more of a central approach so that you're bringing people in from different areas. I think if we had is it 5 or 6 chains on the coat of arms? There's the links of the chain on the coat of arms which represent the different areas. But actually, if we isolated them to Froningham, Crosby, Brumby, Bottisford, which obviously is now grown, we're not creating that community feel. You're just creating different areas and pockets of areas. So actually, I think it just needs more of a focus into Scunthorpe as a whole, rather than just isolating different areas. Is my opinion.
Okay, and do you think that's something that's underway at the moment, or do you think it's something that should be looked at in the future?
Work in progress, I'd say. Definitely work in progress. I think. I've forgotten your name.
Oh, I'm Dan. Hi.
Hi. Just sat next to me. Like Dan said, it's an age thing. Like Dan said.
You get some blue milk, actually.
Yeah. I'll have had the text, definitely. So, no, like I said, that it's work in progress through education and areas of charities and sport and everything like that they can actually hang around in different areas. And you're right that kids wearing black it used to be hug a hoodie, didn't it, and things like that, years ago. But they're all sort of going around on their electric scooters and balaclavas and things like that, and people stay away from them, where actually they probably might just be cold, and it might just be something as random as that. And then the police do get phone calls, and so as my day job, I'm a police officer, so we do get the phone calls saying that there's a group of kids on a field playing football, and we go, so what? And it is becoming, we're not really that fussed unless they're starting to chuck bottles at people and they've got knives and creating gang warfare. We're not really that interested. If they're playing football, they're doing a good thing.
Maybe you should channel them into the sports clubs and get them playing there, but without the knives and things. Thank you. Dan, have you got any sort of views on the last couple of points and how kind of you must see it within your educational establishments, that mental health challenges and then sort of how you're pulling people in from different parts of Scunthorpe?
I think kind of going back to what you were saying about the balaclavas and kind of that looks to be quite deceiving. When I started at the college 11 years ago now, I had a student who started with no GCSEs, absolutely nothing kind of coming in, had quite a distinct aesthetic and had been judged quite severely for that. And I think, hadn't had access necessarily to the support to be able to kind of power through some of those challenges, and had kind of almost been left out of the system, all because of the aesthetic and kind of the way that they presented themselves. 7 years later, stayed with us for 7 years, so started on level 1, not a single GCSE, and left 7 years later with an honours degree. And I think when that support's available and the judgment, they kind of, when they feel better about themselves, the people feel better about themselves. And when you were talking about the children and kind of how it's almost a fear, isn't there, around people with the black hoodies and that type of thing, which actually could be really misrepresentative. And I kind of told you the story about that student because without the support that they got as being one of our students, they wouldn't have got that necessarily from the community. And it completely changed their life. And actually they looked at themselves through a different lens. So then the world did as well. And kind of linking back to the mental health type of thing.
And how much outreach do you guys do into the community to pull people in and make them aware of what they have on their doorstep? And you've got this amazing resource on their doorstep. They can go from level 1 right through to an honours degree and possibly beyond, and they don't need to go anywhere else to do that. Do you find it's a challenging situation to go out and spread that word?
I think raising aspirations is something that we do really well, but actually for the town itself, there needs to be more of a kind of a holistic approach to raising those aspirations and kind of creating clear pathways into, actually, these opportunities are available to you and here's how we can support you to get there. in relation to what we do, we've got outreach kind of from school level all the way through kind of to community and all that type of thing. So we've got things like Children's University, which is the primary focus of raising aspirations of school children. So actually university is an option for you, wherever you are, kind of, and here are the potential avenues that you can go. And it kind of makes it quite a nice thing of, they have a graduation, they have a look around higher education institutions and kind of to make them feel that it's really achievable from kind of wherever. We also have kind of with the community engagement stuff, we do lots of stuff with different cultures and faiths to try and kind of enhance social cohesion, I think is the term that we say, kind of bringing lots of different ideas together, those rebel ideas, and actually that's how we make everything a bit nicer and a bit more together, isn't it? And that kind of goes back to what you were saying about the different areas of Scunthorpe. And I think actually acknowledging and recognising the different cultures and the different people that we have here and what they can offer is something maybe that's where we need to just do a little bit of work.
I think that's really interesting. The concept of sort of the rebel ideas, and something that Scunthorpe Tomorrow as a group wants to do is talk about that. So what, what's the next step from there? They've gone and got their honours degree. What do they do then? What's out there in the town that they can either create themselves or they can go and get involved with. And I think that's a really important thing. And just while you're talking there, I'm thinking, well, the links between all four sort of organisations here are so strong. The sort of the collaborative and passing things between each other. It's the opportunities are really strong. And I think it's incumbent on us as individuals and as a collective to really push that and to shout about Scunthorpe and to be really vocal in our own ways about the benefits of being here. And the fact that, you guys sitting in the room today have heard these four people talking about their own organisations and their views on the town. Well, go and tell someone about that. Did you know about what Dan's been talking about today? Did you know about that? And actually, you just start educating people. And I said earlier that I run a marketing agency. We take the premise that it's only when you get really bored of saying something that other people start to take notice. And you've got to keep banging that drum. You really have. And that's we're going to keep doing it at Scunthorpe Tomorrow. And I'd love it if you guys were doing it too. I did see a hand go up in the audience there. Do you want to come and raise your point? It's like news night.
No comment. Okay, thank you. It's Rob. So it's going to be a question for the panel. So it picks up on the point Michaela made. So I too meet lots of businesses, and the challenge of bringing young people on board and keeping them is not universal. It's not confined to Scunthorpe, it's universal. So that, combined with the world events today, I mean, in the next couple of years, defence is going to be a big draw on young talent. So the other theme there, Alex mentioned about what can we do, we can be an advocate. The question I have for you is, what can you challenge us to do, either individually or as groups, to raise this game that you're talking about? Thank you.
So we do some work with young volunteers. It's around increasing their aspirations and building experiences and a range of activities. And I've also been a trustee of a small children's charity, plus a school governor. I think one of the really important things, and even through my own experiences, is that children don't know the breadth of opportunities or job types that are out there. What they tend to know is what their parents do or what other members of their family do. So I think part of one of the things that we can all do is go into schools, go into places and tell our experiences and the types of roles that we're doing. I went on to do chartered management accountancy. So that was the qualifications that I did. My dad, he was in Broadmoor. My mum, she had mental health issues. I left home at 16. So it wasn't anybody who pushed me down that route. I sort of fell into it. And I fell into it through, I started work at a homeless charity. So I started work at the Forge Project. And I was admin there. And it was, I'd done well at the sort of finance side. So I thought, maybe I'll try. And I went on to do the AAT. And after that, there wasn't anything local. So I did home study and did the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. I also had a young child at that time as well. So there were lots of barriers in place for myself. And I think sometimes people need help navigating those barriers. I think because of the dysfunctional childhood that I had, I think I'd built a lot of problem-solving skills that other people didn't necessarily have to build from those early stages. So I do think it's around, actually, how can we make those journeys a little bit easier? And I also saw many of my peers who I grew up with who are still stuck in the situations that they probably were in and that generational cycle of situations, because they didn't necessarily have a role model, or they didn't have somebody who could give a bit of peer support, or that self-belief. They hadn't developed a level of self-belief. And I think falling into the charity sector when I did helped me develop self-belief. And like I said, I've managed to move up that chain, and I can hopefully give something back to help others develop a level of self-belief so that they can reach their potential, because that's what we'd hope for anybody, so that everybody can have a fulfilled life.
Follow that.
Yeah, I can't. I can't follow that. There's no need to try and follow that. But I think that what Sian shared there is a story I've heard from other people too when we're talking about returners, people who recognise the challenges that they faced, and whether it was falling into charity work like you did, or they moved away and they got an opportunity where somebody put some belief into them, they forged a successful career, and now they want to come back and make that contribution. How can I add to that? I guess it's just us recognising our roles, and as for Scunthorpe United as a football club, how do we do that? How do we work with our foundation who do great work in the community already? We're at the minute as a club, we have certain challenges that we're trying to overcome, and a lot of the work that's done in the community is done through the foundation. So how do we engage with that? How do we make people in this room, how do we make ourselves accessible to people in the room to provide those opportunities that Sian was talking about there? Because, one of the big things I've realised since coming here is this is a football club, but what happens out there on that pitch? That's 30 days out of 365 in a year. So what are we doing the rest of the time? And when I talked earlier about, joy, pride and identity, about creating social value, what I was talking about really was when we talk about pride, what happens out there on the pitch, we can only have a certain amount of control over that. So if that's not going well, how do we measure our success? And we can measure it in pride and identity. You can be proud of your football club, not because of how well they're doing on the pitch, but because of that value that they're creating and how they're helping people in the community, and maybe how they're helping you. So I suppose, sorry, that's a bit of a rambling answer, but it's a bit of a reflection on what Sian said there of, how do we do that together, and how do we facilitate that? Because there are a lot of opportunities here at Scunthorpe United for work placements, collaborations. We're an events business, we're a hospitality business, we're a retail business, we're a networking business in this formative stage in some of those areas. And so we need help too, but that's how we can engage and where we can create opportunities and value, I think.
Very good. Tony, is there anything that you'd add?
I think it's all been covered. The challenge to the room would be to promote what each other are doing, maybe through whether it's a sports club like the rugby club or the Scunthorpe United Foundation, or whether it's a local football team, Gunners, Apfrod, Botsford, wherever, is just to go out and just be aware of what's actually in the community and just promote that as much as you can, really, to customers, family, friends, networks, whoever, or even just saying that actually we've got a university campus now. Was you aware of that in Scunthorpe? Actually, it's a growing town, rather than just using the same old rhetoric that it is crap. Actually, it's growing.
So there were 2 points that come to mind with your question, Rob. I think the first one is what we've talked about a lot, about the narrative around Scunthorpe. So the children that are born here kind of have the internal narrative of the community. It was a bit rubbish. But then actually on a broader scale, Scunthorpe is seen as, because of the name and kind of some of the telly programmes. I remember in Florence the Machine came to Bath Hall and she was doing a tour of the most rubbish towns in the UK. So there was Luton, there was Scunthorpe, there was Southend. And I think thinking about that narrative, our place for our town is to kind of challenge it. Scunthorpe's got so much to offer. So when we kind of do see it, I think we can all take a position in that and kind of try and change that narrative. The other thing that I kind of wanted to pick up on was actually engage with the local, I know from my position that I'm in, trying to get business engagement to find out exactly what you need, because I can do loads of research. I can tell you what the biggest skill deficits are in Scunthorpe according to data and labour market intelligence. Actually, that's not telling me what's on the ground. So I think engagement with organisations like ours and businesses and kind of trying to have more of a cohesive approach rather than us trying to guess how to make it better. So I think really the key to that is work with us.
Should probably just leave it on that one. No, that's fine. Brilliant. Thank you very much. So we'll wrap it up fairly quickly now, but I do just would like to get from each of you the pledges that you would like to make to from this moment on, and it doesn't have to be anything grand. If just to give my example for myself now, I'm sit on the board for Destination Lincolnshire, which is the destination management organisation for the sort of greater Lincolnshire area. Whilst my role on there is to promote Lincolnshire as a whole, I'm going to really zero in on North Links and really, what can we get up here that would normally be, sent down to Lincoln, down to the south of the county. That's my role between now and the next Placelab event. So I think, Sean, have you got anything?
My pledge is that we're going to get better about shouting about all of the good stuff that our charity sector does. We do raise and speak about it in lots of venues, but I think sometimes we're talking about it to people who are similar. And I think what we need to be doing is talking about it to people who aren't, or who don't understand the breadth of things that go on. And sometimes that's those little stories around sort of those case studies that we might send to funders and things like that about how somebody's moved from point A to point B. But sometimes it's that much wider. So if you think about, even in Scunthorpe, the number of charitable organisations there are, and when I'm talking about charity, I'm talking about sort of faith organisations as well. Like I said, your sports groups, all of those voluntary community groups, some of those who might be working with children and young people, or some are working with older people. And it's about recognising all of those challenges that they face as well. So we have got, for voluntary community sector organisations, we've got the Stronger Together event next week, and we're looking and speaking to them about the range of challenges they've got. And I think it's about making those more publicly available so that people can realise actually where the real difficulties are within our communities, but actually even some of that, every little action actually has a positive consequence.
Very good. Matt?
You're making it really hard, aren't you?
Yeah, you did say earlier that you devised your pledge already. So.
I had a pledge before we started, yeah. Which is actually one that's been set to me by the board, which is to have 5 coffees a week with different people. So I'm going to be coming around and taking some business cards and stuff. You have to buy the coffee, by the way. That's the deal. But that's one thing. The other is, I just made a note as you were talking about everybody acting as a tourist board for the town and shouting about the good things here is something that I want to do. But broadly, actually, it's well worth me letting everybody here know who doesn't know that yesterday we made a very low-key announcement that we're going to have a festival here in the summer. We're going to have a stadium festival, music festival. It's never been done at this stadium before. We're really, really excited. We're working with some really great guys on the promotion side. It's going to be the first year of what we hope is going to be a long-term project. 3 days on bank holiday, the 23rd, 24th, 25th. And so I guess if I was going to set a challenge, was it, Rob, did you say? Yeah. to everybody here, it's to have a little think about how we can engage with that as a community, because this is a community event. It's for the community. It's to create that value. And to create that excitement and to make Scunthorpe cool. We don't want Florence and the Machine coming here because it's crap. We want them coming here because it's cool, and there's a vibe here, and there's a lot of young people and a lot of talent here. And we want those people to see that there is a future and there's events. And check that out and have a think, and we'll talk as well. Talk to me about how you'd like to get involved with that and really make it a community event. We've also got the community day as well for the Chester fixture here at the ground, 22nd of March. We've got lots going on. They did it last year. We got, I think, up to nearly 8,000 fans on the day for the game, and it's now turning into a top of the table, massive 6-pointer as well against Chester. So, again, Glyn's around as well, myself. Any conversations about how people want to get involved in that and push it. So that's some actions from my side, that and the coffee.
I suppose I've got two. The first one is more specific to the rugby club in that we're partway through a 10-year plan to be sustainable at level 4, which is massive for the town. When you look at the clubs in the next league above, they have grammar schools where rugby's huge, and they get to train 5 days a week, and it's almost like a pro environment for the kids. We get an hour a week with our kids. So to be sustainable at that next level above, it would be massive for the town, it'd be massive for the club, and we do need the community's help and businesses, charities, everybody to maybe if you are a fan of Scunny United and they're away and you can't make it to Chester or wherever down south, wherever, if you're playing Plymouth or somewhere around there soon, then maybe come to Haslam Park and watch rugby instead and just get your fix of sport. And that kind of leads into the second bit, is that just to promote the benefits that sport does have on mental health. Whether your team's getting battered 4-0 or 80-0 or you're winning, it's getting out there and just being part of that community. Whether you're playing, whether you're a fan, whether your kids are playing and you're a fan of your kids, whatever, it does get you out of the house in the fresh air. And then even if you're in someone else's club, you're using their heating and electric, so it's saving money as well.
I think for me, it goes back to that raising aspirations. So I think a lot of what we do is very much short term, kind of here's some of the stuff that I need to achieve this year, and actually thinking longer term about, I think we've got a panel coming up soon about what Scunthorpe look like in 2040. Well, we can have a real impact on that now with the kind of the young in the community and raising aspirations and kind of letting them know kind of here are the opportunities. So I think us doing more as a kind of a community institution around raising aspirations, and actually UCNL as a bit more of a community hotspot. It shouldn't be the best kept secret in Scunthorpe. Working on that. So it's just kind of trying to raise what we do, and I think Sean, maybe we'll have a chat. But yeah,
very good. Well, I think this is it. It's, people on the marketing side of things, you often sort of talk about, what would people not expect? What would people not expect, an educational organisation to do? What would people not expect a town like Scunthorpe to be doing? And I think there's a lot that's been covered today that would really open the eyes to people who've never been here, to people who've been here all their lives. I think it's been absolutely fantastic to hear from the panel today, and thank you so much for the questions from the audience. As Dan alluded to, we're going to have a short break, and then we'll have some breakout sessions where we're sort of focusing really on your perception of what Scunthorpe could look like in 2040. And worryingly, that's probably not that far away. It's only 15 years away. But the best time to plant a tree, obviously 20 years ago, the second best time is now. So what are we going to be doing to plant those trees to make Scunthorpe sort of a healthy and thriving community in 15 years' time plus? So if you can sort of retire into those breakout groups afterwards, that would be fantastic. But if we can just do a massive round of applause for the panel today, because it's been so good. And I'm sure if there's anything that's been raised by the people up here today that you want to talk to them separately about, I'm sure they'd be happy to do that either now or over a coffee, one of Matt's 5 a week. I'm sure you have more than one a day, though. Anyway, please do keep these conversations going. And I know it's not easy in an open situation like this to maybe ask questions, and it's easier one-on-one. So please do that. If you've got something in your mind, the chances are that someone else has got that as well. So please, use the knowledge that we've got here. But thank you very much. Grab a coffee, have a break, and then return for the breakouts.